Lover tonight, Rod Phillips is now Ontario's former finance minister.
It was a significant error in judgment, a dumb mistake.
Phillips hands in his resignation after a 48-hour firestorm over his Caribbean getaway. Plus,
January and February, I think, are shaping up to be a potentially worst-case scenario.
Amid a record number of new COVID-19 cases, concern is growing that hospitals are reaching a breaking point. And
I'm staying away from everybody.
Probably get on Zoom and do a little Zoom meeting with the friends.
With the province on lockdown, we'll show you how people in the GTA are planning to ring in the new year. And Ontario is set to ring in the new year with a record high number of new COVID-19 infections. Health officials recording 3,328 more cases today, along with 56 more deaths. There's also a record number of people in hospital, and that has officials worried about what the new year could bring. Talia Ricci begins our coverage tonight.
The last day of 2020 came with grim numbers and huge concerns about what's to come.
The situation is getting bad, very bad indeed, and January and February, I think, are shaping up to be a potentially worst-case scenario.
For the second day in a row, a record number of COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and ICU admissions were reported in the province. Currently, there are more than 1,200 patients in hospital. Of those, 337 are in intensive care.
I know that the GTA hospitals are working to maximize and coordinate all their resources to make sure that the sickest or the patients who need the acutest care are taken care of.
Doctors say they're seeing an increase of very sick patients, and because of that, elective surgeries need to be canceled. Resources are also stretched further as hospitals across the province help support long-term care homes facing outbreaks.
It's just an impact like in all directions.
Toronto Public Health says it will announce additional COVID-19 actions to stop spread in workplaces next week. In a statement, the Ministry of Health says Ontario has received its first delivery of Moderna this week. The first small shipment will be used in Toronto, York, Peel, and Windsor to vaccinate long-term care home residents. Some of those doses arrived here at Chester Village Long-Term Care Home, where nearly 200 residents were vaccinated. But while this vaccine news is hopeful, the head of the Ontario Hospital Association is still urging anyone with plans to mingle tonight to cancel them.
Wouldn't it be a tragedy beyond anyone's belief if the worst of this pandemic happened, just as vaccines were being distributed on Canadian soil? So hope is on the way, but we have to keep up our vigilance.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Just hours after arriving back in the country, Rod Phillips is out as Ontario's finance minister. His resignation today capping a tumultuous 48 hours, sparked by his controversial Caribbean vacation. Greg Ross is live at Queen's Park tonight. And Greg, the trip for Phillips coming with a hefty political price.
Certainly, and Chris, not the way that Phillips was hoping that this was going to play out, and it certainly caps off what was a dramatic series of events that really began back on December 13th when Phillips decided that he was going to go on this tropical vacation, despite the fact that there were rising numbers of COVID-19 here in Ontario, and despite warnings from his own government that people stay home and not travel. Now, while he was in St. Bart's, he sent out a series of tweets that made it appear like he was still back here in Ontario, including a message that he sent out on Christmas Eve that thanked his constituents for doing their part to keep people safe. And once this news became public, the Premier did finally order Phillips to come home, and this 17-day Caribbean vacation finally came to an end this morning.
I wanted to take this opportunity to again unreservedly apologize for my decision to travel during the holidays.
Not long after stepping off a plane at Pearson Airport, Rod Phillips faced the media for the first time since it was revealed he had taken an ill-advised Christmas vacation to St. Bart's.
Obviously, I made a significant error in judgment, and I will be accountable for that. I do not make any excuses for the fact that I traveled when we shouldn't have traveled.
When he arrived this morning, Phillips said he was still hoping to keep his position as finance minister, but had yet to talk to the premier about it. Just hours later, Doug Ford released a statement saying, "Following my conversation with Rod Phillips, I have accepted his resignation as Ontario's Minister of Finance. At a time when the people of Ontario have sacrificed so much, today's resignation is a demonstration that our government takes seriously our obligation to hold ourselves to a higher standard."
Premier Ford has far more important things to do than worry about the travel of his ministers or the people who work for him. As I said, this was my decision. It was a serious error in judgment. The blame is mine, and the blame is mine alone.
Reaction was mixed today in Phillips' Ajax riding.
He lied to the people, so he should be accountable for that. And a person who lies shouldn't be in the office.
It should be penalized for sure, but not probably something as severe as resigning.
If I don't follow the law, I get punished. So if a minister doesn't follow a law, he should get something.
I think we should take this opportunity to forgive the guy. He's done a good job.
Despite his resignation, Phillips remains in the PC caucus and says he will now focus his efforts on continuing to serve the people of Ajax as their MPP.
I know that people are understandably angry about the situation. I do hope to be able to regain their confidence in the days and weeks and months ahead.
Other party leaders are speaking out today, and they say it's not just Phillips that has lost the confidence of people here in Ontario. They're also pointing the finger at Premier Doug Ford, who says he actually admitted yesterday that he found out about this vacation just a few days after Phillips left, but did nothing until this news became public a couple of days ago. Today, NDP leader Andrea Horwath was speaking out, and she says that this resignation does not let Ford off the hook.
He could have fired Rod Phillips a couple of weeks ago, and instead he chose to try to help him keep it a secret. So really the only reason we have Phillips' resignation today is because they couldn't keep it a secret. It's because it went public. And you know, they couldn't, they got caught trying to cover it up.
Premier Ford has already announced Phillips' replacement, holding an emergency swearing-in session this afternoon to announce that Peter Bethlenfalvy is the new Minister of Finance for Ontario, the Ford government's third finance minister in 3 years. The Pickering-Uxbridge MPP sent out a tweet today, Chris, saying that he is honored to take on this new role.
A busy day today at Queen's Park, and Greg Ross reporting live for us tonight from Queen's Park. Now, since the story first broke on Tuesday, Rod Phillips' vacation has captivated the province, but it's been brewing for some time. Here's a look back at how it unfolded. On December 13th, Finance Minister Rod Phillips flies with his wife to the Caribbean island of St. Bart's against public health guidance not to embark on unnecessary travel. Neither the public nor his boss, the Premier, know it's happening. Shortly after the minister lands, Premier Ford calls Phillips and finds out he's in the Caribbean. Between December 15th and 22nd, still advising against regional travel, let alone international trips, Ford holds 4 media briefings, never disclosing one of his top ministers is abroad for fun.
So during the holidays, hunker down.
Meanwhile, Phillips' Twitter account posts several times, making it look like he's hard at work in his Ajax riding.
And I want to thank each and every one of you for what we are doing to protect our most vulnerable.
And on Christmas Eve, a video appearing to show him cozy by the fire at home. Then December 29th, around noon, News Talk 1010 breaks the story. Phillips is on vacation. Around 1 p.m., Phillips confirms but defends the trip. Despite advice since March telling everybody not to travel, Phillips tries to argue the personal getaway was okay because it was planned prior to the December 26th lockdown, saying, "Had I been aware then of the eventual province-wide lockdown, we would have canceled the trip." His office confirms he's still away, but won't say where.
There should be some responsibility and accountability for that, and the buck stops with the Premier.
While the opposition demands consequences, that night at 7:25, the Premier releases his first public statement, not letting on he's known about the trip for weeks. At a time when every Ontarian has been asked to make sacrifices, Doug Ford writes, "I am extremely disappointed in Minister Phillips and his decision to travel abroad." The Premier demands his finance minister fly home immediately. Shortly after, at 8 p.m., an updated statement from Phillips. "I deeply regret traveling over the holidays," he now writes. "It was a mistake, and I apologize." He also confirms he's in St. Bart's. An hour later, a clarifying note from Ford's office saying Premier Ford was not aware of the minister's trip, nor did he or his office approve it. The premier learned of the trip after the minister was already out of the country. Then December 30th at 3 p.m., Ford admits he's known about the trip for weeks, but had done nothing.
My mistake, and I take full responsibility. At that time, I should have said, get your backside back into Ontario, and I didn't do that.
December 31st, around 8:30 a.m., the embattled cabinet minister returns home from his sunny destination with an apology and a whole lot more baggage.
Unreservedly apologize for my decision to travel during the holidays. I know that I disappointed a lot of people. I hope people appreciate I've disappointed no one more than myself.
Roughly 4 hours after that airport apology, Ford announces Phillips has resigned his cabinet post. Okay, now to New Year's Eve celebrations, and health officials are emphasizing the importance of staying home and staying away from each other tonight. That means no gatherings or parties, but as Kelda Yoon reports, people are finding other ways to celebrate.
For a lot of people this year, New Year's Eve will probably look something like this.
I'm staying away from everybody. Social distancing.
Staying home this year, but yeah, just a quiet New Year's, different from last year.
But staying home doesn't mean you can't celebrate with others virtually.
Probably get on Zoom and do a little Zoom meeting with the friends, a little cocktail hour with the family.
And for those who want to add a little more fun, the popular 10-member Canadian band Dwayne Gretzky will be streaming their New Year's Eve party on their YouTube channel, live from their Toronto loft.
We have a New Year's tradition that's been going for about 10 years now, and so this is a different one.
And because it's virtual this year,
but we are going to ring in the New Year moment for all the time zones in Canada, which is 6 time zones that I've been made aware of. And yeah, so we're playing from 10:30, Happy New Year Newfoundland, all the way till 3 in the morning, Happy New Year British Columbia.
All the while the band will be playing their favorite covers with the promise of a few surprises.
We're doing our very best to play a song for each time zone by an artist from that time zone. So there's going to be a lot of great CanCon this evening.
Meanwhile, this won't be the scene at Nathan Phillips Square tonight, but the city will be hosting a virtual New Year's Eve countdown with a light show on the CN Tower. And this New Year's Eve will be a tough one for many restaurants and bars. The Tourism Industry Association of Ontario estimates the province's hotels, bars, and restaurants will lose almost $2 billion in revenue.
We would love to ask everyone to, if they can, order in from their local restaurant or pick up Ontario wine, beer, or cider or spirits to ring in the new year.
And of course,
please just stay home.
Just one final reminder so that next year we can hopefully get back to celebrating like this. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
But around the world, the celebrations have already begun. The tiny Pacific nation of Samoa and Kiribati were the first places on the planet to welcome in the new year. Here's a look at the celebration in the Samoan capital as the clock struck midnight. In a curious twist, American Samoa is just 1 hour flight away, but 25 hours behind. It will be the last place in the world to welcome 2021. Soon after the Pacific nations rang in the new year, Australia followed suit. In past years, about 1 million people would pack the harbor to watch the display and celebrate. But this year, pandemic restrictions were in place in Sydney as fireworks lit up the night sky to welcome 2021. As the day went on, other nations around the world, such as Thailand, Russia, and Taiwan, rang in the new year with style while also being safe. And always stylish, Nick Cernovich is joining us now. Nick, I hope you're having a good night tonight to ring in the new year.
Yeah, I'll be at home with my 4-year-old and my wife. I don't know if we're going to make it to New Year's, but anyway.
Oh, come on, you have to.
I know. I think we will this year. I think he's old enough now to stay up late. Now, actually, New Year's weather looks pretty good. However, New Year's Day into January 2nd is, this is what we're watching here. So tonight, some nice weather. That's the storm system that we're talking about coming up in about 24 hours. So there are special weather statements in effect across southwestern Ontario for the most part, areas north of the GTA, Niagara and Hamilton as well, and that for the risk of some extended periods of freezing rain mixed with snowfall. Right now, we're looking at clearing sky cover through tonight as we head through tomorrow morning. See some sunshine, clouds over through the afternoon. System starts to push in pretty fast moving. By the evening hours, closer to about 6 p.m., we're looking at snowfall starting, mixed with some freezing rain as well. That kind of lasts, this mixed precipitation lasts till close to about midnight. Then we switch over to rainfall. Rainfall through the overnight period tomorrow, and then a brief switch back over to some snowfall as temperatures drop on Saturday. All told with this system, about 2 to 4 centimeters of snow, 5 to 10 millimeters of rain. Sunday, another system. This one, by the evening, could bring about 5 centimeters of snowfall. For Saturday, though, potentially about 2 to 4 centimeters of snowfall from Friday night into Saturday. Forecast temperatures for tonight, -5 degrees, wind chill of -8. Oops, we skipped right past that. And as we head through the next few days, there's a look at your forecast. 3 degrees on Saturday. That mixed precipitation happening through the overnight. And Sunday might be good for the kids with snowfall. Chris.
All right, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Still ahead, as we bid farewell to the year that was, we'll take a look back at the good news that was done. From thanking frontline workers to a birthday surprise, we'll tell you why 2020 wasn't all gray skies. That's still ahead. Algonquin Provincial Park is the oldest and most popular park in Ontario and the only one in the province where commercial logging is allowed. The park's logging plan is up for renewal next year, and there are new calls to put a halt to the practice. Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has this story.
The jewel of Ontario's park system, Algonquin, known for its rugged Canadian Shield beauty and its thick forests. In summer, a place to paddle along tranquil canoe routes. In winter, a cross-country skiing paradise, where there's always the chance of an up-close encounter with wildlife, perhaps even finding it at work. Watch out! Beavers are not the only ones chopping down trees in Algonquin. Logs harvested inside the park feed sawmills like this one, just outside the park boundary. Some 300 people work in forestry in Algonquin. The region's sawmills employ another 3,000. Logging is permitted on nearly 2/3 of Algonquin's land.
Most people, when they find out, are shocked because they expect our protected parks to actually be protected.
Algonquin's forest management plan for the next decade is up for renewal in 2021. Activists are using the occasion to demand an end to commercial logging, since it's not permitted in any other provincial park.
There is a reason we have protected areas, because even the most careful logging has an impact on ecological integrity.
Officials involved in managing logging in the park say it's done in a way that leaves many mature trees standing.
For a lot of people, if they look at an area that's been cut in Algonquin Park within the last 5 years, they might not even be able to know that it's been cut.
Roughly 1% of Algonquin's forests are logged in a given year. It takes place almost entirely outside the main tourist season and at some distance from the most visited parts of the park.
We're very proud of the fact that we've been able to practice sustainable forestry on that hallowed ground for that long, and still have essentially it's a forested park to this day.
Logging has gone on inside Algonquin throughout the park's nearly 130 years of history. There are no signs the provincial government intends to stop it now. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
It was a difficult year, and it sometimes felt like every story was bad, but there was also some good news, certainly, to be had. Torontonians found ways to come together and pull through. Rhyme master Talia Ricci now with a look back at some positivity for you.
You can't go wrong with a good old squirrel on some water skis. And how about this very Canadian sculpture of Spicy P?
Pascal's about 230 pounds, but this Pascal weighs significantly more.
We loved this rare Toronto landlord who's always kept his tenants' rent low.
We've raised our rents since 1983 by $100.
And congrats to these two graduates who became York Regional Police doggos. Toronto Raptors superfan was honored in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
I'm in shock.
And this World War II veteran received 90,000 cards for his 100th birthday.
So Ontario has declared a state of emergency, but what exactly does that mean?
Our world was turned upside down in a way we've never seen. Businesses quickly switched gears and started making PPE. Neighbors and strangers taking care of those in need. Sports, music, parties, they were all put on hold. But virtual creativity started to unfold.
Music is an essential nutrition.
Pots and pans, inspirational signs, and hearts in the sky recognized the bravery and hard work of those on the front lines. There was a feeling of going through something together, even though we were staying apart. For some of us, working from home got off to a bit of a rough start.
So I was wondering if I could just ask you a couple of questions about what it's been like. Oops, there's the cats. Sure. Oh my goodness.
In trying times, we celebrated those who beat the odds through dancing, window visits, and lots of applause.
I'm gonna thank very thanking for the ICU unit.
Thousands took to the streets calling for change that was long overdue.
They're Black children, they're part of history. This is a movement that, they should be part of.
Black business owners and artists were highlighted too.
You'll notice it says, "I can't breathe," and then surrounding the lettering says, "But we can hear you."
People seemed to gain a new appreciation for spending time outdoors.
Seagulls, a lot of seagulls.
Birdwatching, cycling, and this Toronto man who used his kayak to explore. These TikTok stars became famous for their awesome dance moves. And now, a moment to appreciate Toronto's daring raccoons. We didn't get to relive our Raptors championship bliss, but we still love those boys for bringing us moments like this.
Aww.
Despite the challenges, something about this year seemed to inspire people to go out of their way. Like these men who wanted to surprise a little boy who loves garbage trucks for his birthday.
Since you're part of the pack, we got you something.
We checked on each other, we shopped local, and sometimes we still had a bit of fun. But I think it's safe to say 2020, it's about time that you're done. Here's hoping to brighter days in 2021. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Love that one from Talia. And from everyone at CBC Toronto, we wish you a safe and happy end to 2020 and all the best in 2021. Don't miss the CN Tower Light Show tonight. Have a great night.